Nothing is wrong with Bitcoin. At times like this, with Bitcoin at $87,000 per coin at the time I started recording this, with a low earlier today of $86,000 per coin, you might be wondering, is anything wrong with Bitcoin? No, nothing's wrong with Bitcoin. I'm not worried. If you are worried, I will let you borrow some of my I'm not worried because I'm not worried. And if you're scared, you may borrow some of my I'm not scared because I'm not scared and I'm not worried. And you're welcome to borrow as much of either of those as you need to make it through this temporary dip. So what is going on? Well, the global market of everything, stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, silver, everything, is going crazy today because people are freaking out. They're worried that AI, even though AI is obviously a huge deal, they're worried that AI stocks are in a bubble. For example, NVIDIA, a single company worth more than $5 trillion, which is the biggest company in the AI space right now. And it makes up 8% of the entire Standard & Poor's 500, S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is made up 8% of a single stock, and the other 499 stocks make up the remaining 92%. So people are worried that's in a bubble, that the bubble's going to burst, that the stock market's going to crash, that the global world is going to, just melt down. So at a time like this, the best asset to own is Bitcoin. Literally, there's no asset that was built better for a time like this. In fact, Bitcoin came out in 2009, and the very first block of Bitcoin, which is called the Genesis block of Bitcoin has etched into it a message from Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin. And that message says, Times of London, January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout of the banks. It was basically a finger pointing to the fact that Bitcoin was intended for a world that's full of bailouts, a world where you can't trust anybody, a world where everything's going crazy, and a world where governments print unlimited amounts of money to bail out everybody, except the little guy, of course. They always start at the top, bailing out banks, bailing out bankers, trying to stabilize the financial system from the top down. And of course, the little guy at the bottom is left with the inflation that all of that money printing causes. So Bitcoin was made for a time like this. So why is Bitcoin down if Bitcoin was made for a time like this? And the answer is because people are freaking out. They're trying to save businesses. They're trying to save homes. They're trying to keep from being foreclosed on. They're trying to keep from going bankrupt. The companies are trying to make payroll. And when you're freaking out, you sell what you can, not what you want to. And if any of these entities owns any Bitcoin, Bitcoin is 24/7 liquid. You can buy and sell it anywhere in the world in any currency, which is a huge upside. But it also means it's the easiest thing to liquidate if you're panic selling and there's nothing else you could sell. So look, if you're upside down and in trouble, and I only have ever owned one home. I've never had a vacation home or anything like that. I just own one home. I travel a lot, but I've only ever owned one home. But if you have a second home, a vacation home, and you suddenly need liquidity, meaning you got to bail yourself out somehow, you can't sell that property very fast. There's no super fast and easy way to offload a piece of real estate or to offload a bunch of family jewels or diamonds, even gold. If you want to sell gold and silver, it takes about 2 weeks, based on my own experience, to offload gold and silver. Bitcoin is 24/7. You can sell Bitcoin anytime. So when people freak out and they panic, it's like a ship that's people are afraid it's going to capsize. They try to lighten the load by throwing everything overboard. Well, sometimes they might chunk all the food overboard and all the water overboard, the fresh water into the ocean. And if you ask somebody standing by, like, hey, why are you tossing your water? Y'all are going to die of thirst as soon as the storm passes. And the answer is, well, the water was on the deck on top and it was the closest thing. So it was just the easiest thing to chunk overboard. Doesn't mean that makes any sense. It was easy to throw this food and water overboard, even though it actually makes no sense to throw food and water overboard in a situation like that. You ought to throw heavy cargo that's optional. But again, when people are panicked, they sell what they can, not what they want to. So here's where we are. Okay, so when you're asking the fundamental question of anything wrong with Bitcoin, let's go back to first principles. Is the world going to go back to barter where we're trading a loaf of bread for eggs and cheese and all that sort of stuff? No. No modern economy can run on barter, period. Not by a million years, period. I mean, that didn't mean you can't go to a farmer's market and trade, eggs for some cheese or something like that. But come on, that's like 1/1,000,000th of your total family expenses. You can't do that at scale for any modern anything. You can't barter your way to an iPhone, barter your way to a house. Not going to happen. So we are going to use money. The economy is going to use a money of some sort. And if we're going to use a money of some sort, then you could literally you could build yourself a spreadsheet. So maybe you're worried. Maybe you're like, hey, this whole Bitcoin thing, maybe it wasn't a thing. Maybe I'm on the wrong track. Maybe I'm freaking out, whatever else. I would say, okay, let's think about this. As long as we agree the world is going to use something as money, whether it's the US dollar, the yen, the won, the euro, if we're going to use some government money or somebody's something money or Bitcoin or gold or silver or whatever, if we're going to use something, then from first principles, meaning the most basic building blocks, you could build yourself a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, or you could build yourself a Google sheet, and you could put everything that could be used as money on it. So you could make one line item, for each of the attributes of a good money: divisible, portable, durable, fungible, authenticatable, and most importantly, scarce. And there's a couple bonus ones you could put on there as well. But the big ones are divisible, portable, durable, fungible, authenticatable, and scarce. Those are probably the 6 most important. But you can toss a 1 or 2 in extra if you want. Okay, and then you put on that spreadsheet or that Google sheet, you listed everything we could use as money as humanity. Even stuff that off the top of your head is not going to work very well. So you list the US dollar and other government currencies. You list gold, silver, platinum, palladium. You list diamonds. You list real estate, even though you can't use real estate as money. But, why not? Just add everything. And you list everything. You list, everything that could possibly be used as money, including, of course, Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrency you wanted to add. And then from first principles, meaning you just block out all the noise, you ignore everybody else in the world, and you say, okay, we're going to figure out where humanity is going to gravitate for their money based on what has superior monetary qualities. Because in the world of money, better money outcompetes, less good money. If you could be holding gold or silver, eventually you're going to turn in your silver for gold, because gold is better, more scarce, and better money than silver. And eventually you're going to turn in your, Venezuelan bolivar, or the Nigerian naira. You're going to turn those into US dollars if you want the best government money. Because again, why would you sit on an inferior government money if there's a better government money? But ultimately the world gravitates toward the better money. So when you're done running all of that analysis in your spreadsheet where you compare all of the attributes of good money to everything that could possibly serve as money in a modern economy, absolutely, hands down, unequivocally, Bitcoin wins that race. It's not even close. It's not even insanely, even remotely close. Bitcoin is far more scarce than anything else on that table. Gold is second. The second most scarce thing in the universe is gold. But Bitcoin is significantly more scarce because of its absolute supply of 21 million versus, if the price of gold goes up, they just dig more of it out of the ground. And then the extra supply that comes out of the ground makes the price of gold go down. So gold's upside is always capped by the fact that they can dig more out of the ground. But still, objectively, based on how much we have and how hard it is to get more, gold is the second most scarce thing. Now, gold does not work as money, which is why we don't use it as money. If you could send gold over the internet, if it was portable, durable, divisible, fungible, and authenticatable, in addition to being scarce, and gold has some of those properties. It is durable, for example. But if gold was sufficiently divisible, authenticatable, and portable, in addition to the qualities it already has, which is scarcity second only to Bitcoin, then yeah, maybe you could make that work. But gold does not have those attributes. So Bitcoin wins hands down. So whether you want to evaluate everything bottom up, top down, left to right, right to left, no matter how you analyze it, Bitcoin is the better money. And the better money will win in the end. Now, on the way to Bitcoin winning, will there be ups and downs? Of course there will. There's been more than a dozen price corrections in Bitcoin's history. Last I counted 18. There are 18 price corrections larger than what we're experiencing right now. 18. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be ups and downs. Hardly any of the world, like 5% of the world owns any Bitcoin. So if 5% of the world owns any Bitcoin, why would we believe that it's not going to be rocky? We're so early. Early technologies, early in their adoption, go up and down a lot. It doesn't matter what they are. They just do. Bitcoin's early in the adoption cycle. Nothing's wrong with Bitcoin. All of the fundamentals are solid. The underlying properties that make it a good money are stronger today than they've ever been in history. No other money is going to outcompete Bitcoin. And we have a temporary price dip because there's too many people that are low conviction. They don't understand what Bitcoin is. They bought it as a short-term, get-rich-quick something instead of a long-term wealth-building opportunity. Or they have emergency needs due to the upheaval in the economy. So we're in a dip, but it's so what? I mean, honestly, so what? It'll come back just like it has every single time, 18 other times. It's going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. Buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. Same advice as always. Nothing changes. The bottom line is the bottom line. It always will be. We will go on to set new all-time highs from here. We always do. It's not that hard. Buy as much Bitcoin as you can and hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. It really is that simple. It's that simple.